Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
Now, here at the very top of the show, I have a quick little New Year's recap thing, and then Joy has some music news and some other things. So, Joy, do your music news first.
All right. So my music news is just something very simple. And I don't know if Tim saw it or not. Came out yesterday. Heart is returning with their first ever live gig in about 5 years. So if anyone in the world, as me and Tim have said, are really interested in seeing Heart, now's your time to do it.
Fantastic. Have they announced any dates of where they're going to be?
Not well, so far, the first one took place on December 27th, and then they performed in Seattle on the 28th and the 31st. They're saying, though, they're expecting more dates to come out soon. So if you're a Heart fan, set up your Google alert. And they've been doing some cool stuff. They did a rendition of David Bowie's Let's Dance, two Zeppelin covers, which was the Battle of Evermore and the Ocean, and they've been doing a few other things. I guess they were being supported at one point by Def Leppard and Journey, and they said that might continue across the United States. So you might even have the chance to see Def Leppard, Heart, and Journey in the same concert, Tim.
Yeah, that would be a fantastic set of musicians all together in one place. I mean, I would probably go and see any of those people on the bill individually, but all together, goodness me.
I know, that would be a long concert, too, because that's three bands with a lot of hits.
Yeah, I think in those kind of situations, they normally play for just over an hour or something like that.
I would think so, or you'd be there all year. But with that being said, just keep your eyes peeled. And I think it's cool. They said that they're they're supposed to see select tours. So far, they're thinking it's going to be the U.S. only. So sorry, U.K. friends, but YouTube exists.
Exactly.
That's all I got. And they did apparently, I guess, I didn't know this. Did you know that Hard did a version of Stairway to Heaven for the Kennedy Center Honors, which apparently brought Robert Plant to tears. I didn't know they were the one who sang it.
Yes, I've seen that. Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and John Paul Jones are in the audience, and they've got those kind of Kennedy Honors, like stripy, whatever that thing is that they get to wear. And yes, I have seen that performance, and it is a very good performance.
That does not surprise me, because as I have said many, many times, two of the best female vocalist, and that, like, Ian, I'm telling you, it is the one artist that, like, I would tell even the most talented person to try to cover a Heart song is taking on it just doesn't work, Tim. It's one of those people for me that nobody else could do it quite as well.
No, I mean, Anne and Nancy Wilson have such amazing voices. It'd be interesting to know, they're older now, whether they drop the keys, but you often find a lot of female vocalists can continue up in that high range, way on into their life.
Well, they just did a show on December 27th and 28th and 31st, Tim, so we could probably get on the Googs and find out.
Exactly. I could go on the YouTube or whatever the kids are using these days, and I can check it out on the hit clips.
On the hit clips. I'm sure that show's already been transformed into the best music player of all time, a.k.a. hit clips. It will sound like it's coming from Potato, but that's all right.
There's me wasting my time with my love of CDs when I should be embracing the hit clips.
I wonder how many of the hit clips still exist out there. And are they, like, expensive now? Are they, like, nostalgic and you have to spend $1,000 to get your hands on hit clips?
I don't know. I have an eBay here. Let's have a look. Hit clips. The hit clip players were the Britney Spears hit clip, $17.50 with $5 shipping.
I don't know what I paid back in the day, but it's probably not much less than that.
Somebody has 22 vintage hit clips for $95.
Wow. Who in their mind bought 22 hit clips at any point in time in history? Because it literally sounded like a Potato was playing the music. Like, it seemed cool for the first, like, three you got. And then after that, you'd hear 2 seconds of the song. You're like, this is terrible.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it maybe just played into that collector aspect, especially like a lot of younger people like to collect things of the culture that they're into. I don't know, but yes, I've seen a video on the hit clips, and I've heard samples played off a hit clip, and it sounds terrible.
I'm just saying, it's literally the worst medium. Kind of like we talked about the vinyl situation in the 8-trap. It's one of the worst physical mediums. But anyway, all right, Tim, did you have something you wanted to go over now?
Yeah, so this New Year's, I stayed at home. We were supposed to have a gig. In fact, we had a gig that was booked at a sort of a Moose Lodgy type place. And in the middle of last year, we decided collectively as a band we didn't want to do it anymore. We know it was 7 months to go.
Okay.
We decided we didn't want to play this place. And this particular venue is a little bit out of the way. It has carpet on the walls, just putting that out there. And they allow smoking. And it is a dive is not the right word, but it's not the kind of place I would ever go to socially.
Okay.
So as a band, we decided to cancel it. We gave the venue 7 months notice. They wanted to pay us significantly more money to not cancel. But we said no. We said no, we're giving you 7 months notice. We're canceling. So, okay, it's cancelled. Yeah. So we thought, well, maybe something better might come along. We don't know. And then we've had a personnel issue where one of the members of the band has left, and we've had to replace them. So we're currently rehearsing up a new member of the band. So we wouldn't have had really a band that would have been ready to go for New Year's anyway, and we hadn't actively looked for a gig or anything. So this is one of the first New Year's apart from the COVID year where we was all at home. So Hannah and I just sitting on the sofa. Nothing much is going on. She's watching her anime cartoons. I'm listening to music and scrolling the internet. And then, of course, you get to about 11:15, 11:20, and it's like, well, let's watch the ball drop. So I went through YouTube and a few other places, and I found that Times Square themselves have a streaming YouTube channel. So I put that on, and it was from Times Square. So when I connected to the webcast, there's a stage in Times Square. There's all the people there. You know, we don't need to go on the ins and outs of what happens when you there for New Year's, but there's loads of people there, and there's a stage. And as I tune in, it's Flow Rider. Okay, now we all know Flow Rider.
Yes.
And I know his hits, one of two hits, but I'm sure he has other music. But the music was up tempo. People seemed to love it. They were having a great time. People were singing along. Dancers on stage, and he's singing and he's rapping, and then he brought another lady singer on and he tried to sing with her, and it actually sounded terrible, but it didn't matter. Everyone was having a great time with Flow Rider on the stage. And then towards the end of his set, Flavor Flav comes on the stage.
Yeah, I saw it.
Of course, he has a massive clock around his neck, which is pointing at midnight, obviously.
Of course.
And he shouted, "What time is it?" about 50 times. And that was great. And then I think they went into some other kind of song featuring Flavor Flav. And we thought, well, this isn't necessarily my music. People in Times Square are having the best time of their lives. New Year's, here we go. So that ends. And then you get to like 20 to 12, quarter to 12, something like that. So they bring on Paul Anka.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
And no disrespect to Paul Anka. He's a musical legend. However, firstly, I'm sure nobody in the audience knew who Paul Anka was, for one. Or if they did, weird. It was a very small percentage of people. And then he proceeds to do a song that he wrote, My Way.
My Way.
Yeah. And then he does a cover of John Lennon's Imagine. Now, You've just had this audience pumped up by Flow Rider, who are having the best time of their life, and everyone's pumping in the air. And then you bring it down 58 pegs to Paul Anka. And you could just see the people in the audience. Half of them were like, who is this person? And the other person is like, people were like, bring it down. What's going on?
Well, and then did you see that bit? I knew you were going to go on to the Paul Anka, because I thought there was a point where Paul Anka was on like the little stage talking to one of the hosts, and another guy was with him, and they were talking about the other guy that was with him was part of the company who designed the ball or whatever. And they were thanking him, but you could tell that guy was not used to being on screen or whatever, so it was a little awkward. And Paul Anka he points at the monitor and goes, "You speak," and stares at the guy. What? Did you know? I'm going to have to find the clip. It was so rude, Tim. I almost fell out of my seat because this poor man, you could tell he's just like an IT guy. He's probably not on TV. He didn't know exactly where to look, where the prompter was. And then you got the host on the other side. And the host was trying to show him, hey, it's... And Paul Anka literally pointed right at that monitor, turned and looked at this man and said, "You speak." And then when the guy started talking, he started shaking his head like, see?
It just seems a weird combination. I mean, even if it was the other way round, if you had Paul Anka doing his bit beforehand, and then you bring Flo Rida on with those songs that everyone knows, pumping it right up, and then you're straight into the ball drop. I mean, that is, I can see that, yeah. But as I said, he brought the whole thing down. It's like, goodness me.
Well, and Miley and Dolly did last year, and that was fantastic. Like, you've got to have something up there. They were like up here in like the tier of New Year's things, right? And like, who? Paul, I thought the same thing too. I'm like, he's got to be in his 80s, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's in his 80s. I mean, his age is not really relevant. It's the song choice. I mean, he has other songs that would have been far more suitable.
It was probably the song choice, but I mean, he's not. I mean, his age really is irrelevant. But the fact of the matter is most of his songs come out in the 50s and 60s, and generally that audience might not know much about music from the 50s and the 60s.
No, and I would probably say if you did an exit poll of the people coming out of Times Square and said, "Have you ever heard of Paul Anka?" 70% of them would have no idea who he was.
And to be fair, I mean, I only know a few of his songs. And I do this every week, Tim. It's not like he's a household name around here.
No.
You know what I mean? I'm not normally saying, oh, let me put on the Paul Anka tonight. I mean, that's up there with Frank Sinatra and Neil Sedaka. Frankie Avalon. Random. So random.
Yeah.
They should put Tom Jones up there.
See, if Tom got up there, he could. The thing is, Tom is in the culture because he does that X Factor or Pop Idol or whatever it's called these days. Yeah. So he's out there in the culture, so people know who he is. But no, I don't know. What decision was made there, but it just seems odd to me.
But see, also, Tom Jones has fun songs. Like she could, She's a Lady, Sex Bomb. You know what I mean? They would have been hot songs. Yeah. Like, those have been great songs. It's not unusual. It's even kind of fun.
Yeah.
But, like, My Way, and then he didn't even sing his own song. He sang a John Lennon song.
I don't know. It was a baffling decision by whoever put that on.
I'm so glad you actually saw that, Tim, and I could talk to you about something in the modern music world.
Modern music.
While we're talking about Paul Anka. It's about as modern as it gets,
Exactly.
All right. Did you have anything else?
No, that's all I have. I'm hoping next year I'll be playing a gig, so I don't have to have this conversation again.
I mean, that's fair. So I was talking to a few people who are listeners of the podcast, and they talked about they enjoyed that episode where I threw music lyrics at Tim. And made him try to guess them, because there's this meme that's going around that got shared to me from a few listeners that's like, the closest thing you'll ever know what it's like to speak with a ghost is yelling at podcast hosts when they can't figure something out. So I'm going to ask a little bit of trivia, and some of these are going to be pretty easy. Tim will know, and I'm just pause before you answer, Tim, to give the audience a chance to. I'm just got 2 or 3 little trivia things. So which band was Michael Jackson's song Human Nature originally written for?
I think it would have been written by either Rod Temperton or by Quincy Jones. I don't know.
The answer is Toto.
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't have thought that either. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, because I mean, Toto played on the whole of Thriller. Jeff Porcaro and Steve Lukather and David Page, they're all over Thriller. It's pretty much, they're the backing band on Thriller, essentially. Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting.
I didn't know it was written for them. Do you know how many albums Led Zeppelin has?
It's 8 or 9. It depends whether you include Coda.
Well, they said 8, so I don't know if that's included or not. And then this one is one that I'm sure Tim will have probably more information than we need to know about it, but this question is geared to him, but we'll give him a chance to answer before you say it. Which guitar model was Jeff Buckley known for playing the most? Pause and go.
Jeff Buckley or Jeff Beck?
Jeff Buckley, not Jeff Beck.
I have no idea.
Dang. Well, here we go. It's a 1983 Fender Telecaster, everybody.
Okay. Well, if it's an 83 Telecaster, I assume it's a US Telecaster?
I would not know the answer to that, Tim.
Because the some of the early 80s ones were actually really good because for a period of time, Fender were making some terrible guitars. And it's only when the Japanese copies started getting really good, Fender had to up their game. And there's some from that period that were incredibly well made.
Well, to be fair, like Jeff Buckley, really most people's going to know it from the song Hallelujah. I'm assuming he was American. I've never heard he wasn't.
No, I don't know a lot about Jeff Buckley other than the songs I've listened to on the Music Challenge.
Well, there we go, guys. I have at least stumped him about one guitar that he probably never cared to know about, and or may forget as soon as we hang this up. All right, I will leave you with an easy one. Finish this Lionel Richie lyric. That's why I'm easy like.
Could it be a Sunday morning?
It is. Yay! Ding 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 ding. I threw you a bone at the end there.
Well, thank you.
So, in this week's episode, it is my topic. I don't know why I stopped there. And if you have been following my dispute with Spotify, I have not got an answer on why I don't have a Spotify Wrapped. It's still a sore spot, everybody. But I did my own research and have determined what songs were the most played generally as best I could.
So what you're basically saying, this is like Joy Wrapped by yourself or something.
Yeah, pretty much. These are the most played songs I could find between the Spotify's and then YouTube Music's because I have both. And so Charlie tends to use the YouTube Music's more than I do. I tend to do the Spotify's. But with that being said, I have a list here that compiled for 2023, and my number one song, it's going to be funny because I just mentioned this to Tim the other day. It's probably not a song we've talked about on this podcast, but it is a great song. My number one song of 2023 is I Love the Nightlife by Alicia Bridges.
That's a great song. It's such a great disco song. It's got such a good feel about it. It's got such a good time sound about it. That's a great song.
It's a wonderful song. I don't know a whole lot about her as an artist, but I kind of fell down a rabbit hole and started listening to a few of her albums. And it's kind of interesting because the rest of her music doesn't really have this kind of pop disco-esque kind of sound to it. It's kind of a different song for it. I don't know. Do you know if she had any other hits? That's the only song I know by her.
No, she's the kind of artist that pops up on 70s and disco compilations where they play that song. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, no, I'm not familiar with her as an artist at all.
Well, what was interesting was I found out recently, Tim, and this will be more interesting to people near us. She is American, and she was born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina.
There we are. Almost local-ish.
Almost local-ish. Now, whether she's still there, I have no clue, but I thought that was interesting. She did win a Grammy for I Love the Nightlife. And she's been mentioned as her big interests were like Elvis, Aretha Franklin, Tina Turner, Gladys Knight, and Patti LaBelle. But I just thought that was interesting that every song played in 2023, that was probably my highest, which it makes sense. It's a fun song.
Yeah, I could see why you'd want to listen to that over and over. I mean, maybe I need to add that to one of my premium shuffles.
You should. Now, this is a band that I feel like I knew, forgot, and came back to. Have you ever had a band like that, Tim? Like you knew them for a while, kind of forgot they existed, and come back. And this is an artist we've talked about on the podcast a little bit. It's Jackson Brown. It's Somebody's Baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jackson Brown is one of those artists who has some amazing music and albums out there. But I think the name has sort of fallen off a little bit. But I mean, there are people who love Jackson Brown, and he has some iconic songs, but he's one of those artists that I don't necessarily think is a household name these days.
No, he really isn't. And I mean, Running on Empty, Doctor My Eyes. I think he wrote Fishing in the Dark, or he did a version of it. Mm-hmm. There's just a whole Mr. Bojangles. But I think, you know what I think it is? I think it's his name. The name Jackson Brown is so almost generic. I feel like it's not like, I don't know, it's not like a Madonna or something. It doesn't stand out.
No, but he comes from an era of music where, you don't change your name for marketing reasons.
That is true. He does have nice hair, though.
Yeah.
That famous self-titled album with the I always see that one. But yeah, I mean, if you ask somebody out on the street who Jackson Brown was, I really just don't think they would know.
No, people might say Running on Empty, and that might be just that's it.
But what's crazy to me is how many hits he's had. But if he were walking on the street beside me, I wouldn't recognize him.
Yeah.
Such an interesting thing to, but in some way that would be kind of great, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be like the ideal thing, Tim? Like to be a celebrity, to have all this fame, to make all this money, but still be able to walk out on the street and nobody knows it's you.
Yeah, I always thought it would be great to be someone like Elton John's guitar player because inside the core fandom, nobody's going to know who you are. You could carry on with your life, no one would ever bother you, and then you get to play all these great places and stay on these great hotels and get all these great musical opportunities, and you're pretty much anonymous.
Yeah, that's kind of like I said, being a session musician, I think would be fun too. You get to meet all these people, you make all the money, you might even not even have to travel, really. Just go into the studio, go home like a regular day job.
Exactly.
But I would struggle if I were a celebrity. I've thought about this, with my celebrity status, of course, that I have to worry about. The paparazzi is always at my door.
Well, you have a voice that is heard all over the world. Remember from our Wrapped episode, there are people on various continents listening to you right now.
But anyway, so with that being said, I would have this problem, and I thought about this. They'll like take a photograph or record a celebrity, be like, they're so mean. Look at their facial expressions, or they look like they're arguing or something. I have a natural. It's called RBF. Google that, everybody. And so, but we keep it PG here, so I can't explain what that means. I have a natural scowl in some situations, but I don't realize I'm doing it. So I would struggle with, they would think that I'm like constantly yelling or upset, or you know what I mean, just being mean. But then I also see do you always want to have they expect the celebrities to always be on, Tim? You know what I mean? Always be happy and want to talk to people. And I don't always want to do that. So I would struggle with that. I think as a celebrity, I'd be the one they'd have in the news complaining about.
Yeah, because you're not always on. I mean, there was a I'm a reasonably chipper chap nearly all of the time, but there was, I think it was during the first round of the COVIDs, we'd all been working and working and working, and we were trying to roll technology out and something like that. And then I said something to someone who directly reports to me, and they were like, "What did you say?" And I said, "Look, I'm sorry. It's been a rough couple of weeks." And they were like, "Don't worry about it.
Move along."
Yeah.
I mean, I generally am too, but sometimes it's just the weight of the world starts to weigh on your shoulders, and sometimes you just don't even, and to always have to sign, you know what I mean, and take pictures and sign and take pictures. I don't know that I would always be wanting to do that.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it comes with the territory. If you engage in the entertainment industry and you want the money that goes with it, and you want the notoriety and the fortune that goes with it, and all that kind of stuff that comes with being an artist on any level, that is part of the contract, if you will.
Yeah, I know, but I just know that I'd be on the list of meanest celebrities or something. I would end up on one of those lists. All right, so the next song is, let's see here. I'm scrolling. Oh, this doesn't surprise me either. Not even a little bit. It's Super Freak by Rick James.
I mean, as we've said before, one of the only non-Queen songs that's in the Bohemian Rhapsody film.
There you go, guys.
But we've watched the video for this because you introduced me to that.
Yeah.
And this is just a great song. I mean,
it really is. It doesn't surprise me. It one that I grew up listening to all the time. So I'm sure that's part of it. But me and Tim probably talked to death. With that being said, that was number 3. So let's find one that's a little less talked about on the podcast. Oh, this one I'm surprised is not higher. This is a song that I listen to, I don't know, probably 2 to 3 times a week. It is The Faces, Ooh La La.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why this one is so. I like the intro, the dun, 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 and then when he goes to the poor young granddad. Please don't copyright us. I know that wasn't that accurate. I like that intro. I don't know what it is, but I probably listen to this song, Tim, a good 2 to 3 times a week.
Interesting. I mean, the Faces song for me that I would probably be the most familiar with is Stay With Me. And in the early days of Rough Justice, that was a song that was in our set.
That one is one that I listen to fairly often, too. You don't really hear a lot of local bands do that song.
No,
or anything by the Faces.
Even in the the mid to late 90s when I was gigging that with Rough Justice, it was a unusual choice. There was not a lot of other bands that were playing that.
I mean, I know your name is Rita.
Because your perfume's smelling sweeter.
That's all I could think of when you said that song. No, I generally like that. I like the Faces. I feel like another band underrated. You don't hear a lot about them.
Well, no, of course you got the Faces and then the Small Faces. And then Ronnie Wood, who's in the Faces, then went on, because he played bass in the Faces, and then he went on to play guitar in the Rolling Stones. So, I mean, and then, of course, you've got Rod Stewart and stuff like that. They're one of
Just
those
that
bands.
Rod Stewart guy.
Yeah. I mean, they're one of those bands that's like a springboard to a bunch of other things.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. If you've never been through their catalog, I suggest it. I feel like they get forgotten, but obviously Rod Stewart is Rod Stewart. In case you guys didn't know, I just want to make you aware of that. All right, so the next one is, let's see here. Apparently, I was into country music this month, but I'm gonna go with, because I've got it labeled by months. Jim Croce, Bad Leroy Brown.
Yeah, I wouldn't even class that as country. I mean, it's the biggest whatever in the whole town.
It's not really country, but this I've got it by months, and this month I was really into country for some reason. Yeah, there's a lot of Dolly and stuff on here.
Yeah, I mean that's more folk than country in my opinion.
Same kind of vibe though. I mean, I grew up this song. I mean, this is one of those songs that the Photograph album, I think as a whole, Photograph and Memories, it's like the greatest hits or whatever, is one of those, Jim Croce is one of those artists that I could listen to that album from beginning to end because he's got so many hits.
Sure.
But once again, forgotten. You don't hear people talk about it very rare. Of course, he passed away, right? He's dead now.
I believe so.
Jim Croce, if you're still alive and you're listening to our podcast, I'm very sorry, but I'm pretty sure you died. Somebody out there screaming at us, no, Joy, he was just touring last week. I think he died. All right, moving along. Let's see here. I've got it labeled out by months since I had to do it myself.
I like to think you have a spreadsheet or something.
Kind of. Okay, so the next one is Linda Ronstadt, and it's When Will I Be Loved?
A classic Linda Ronstadt song. And again, there's a lot of these artists that you're mentioning. They're like artists that are falling off the culture unless you're a fan or unless you're older. And much like our friends in Times Square who had no idea who Paul Anka is, I wonder if you took a sample of, 20 and 30, even 30-year-olds at this point, and you mentioned some of these names, I wonder how many of them would resonate.
The thing about it is I think that the songs they would know, like, and me and Timothy that had this where it's happened to us, where if you played the song first, we're like, oh yeah, I've heard that 1,000 times, but I don't know who sings that. These are like songs like Dr. Mice, like you've heard that on the radio. But nobody would be like, oh yeah, I know Jackson. You know what I mean? Like, it's very rare. And now that you say that, I didn't realize that that's what my playlist has become. I'm keeping the artists alive, Tim.
Well, your playlist is effectively the playlist that they have in CVS.
I'm 1,000 years old and I'm working at a CVS. Thanks, Tim.
And for those people who don't know, CVS is a pharmacy chain, much like Boots in the UK.
At least there's... Oh my God. I swear to you, Tim, he looked right at that screen. That poor man wanted to fall off of that little thing. And I can't blame him. That was so rude. I don't know anything about Paul Anka, but that was pretty rude.
Yeah, well, I mean, Paul Anka knows the deal. He's a professional. He's been on TV 1,000 times. He knows how to read a cue from a producer or a production assistant. He knows how how things go into a commercial break. I mean, he's been in and around entertainment his whole life, and he knows how that stuff works. So being a live broadcast, his sort of instinct kicked in. He's like, you that now.
But still, like he could have like, lightly been like, hey, you're speaking now. You know what I mean? It was it was almost to like embarrass the guy. And I don't know if it also could be because I think he kind of has that like New York kind of personality type person to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like I don't want to say mobster, but you associate that kind of personality, like Italian kind of thing.
Yeah.
Going on. So maybe I misread it, but if anybody else saw it, I'd be generally curious to know what you guys thought. Anyway, so back to my CVS playlist.
The greatest hits of CVS 23.
Can't breathe. It's Candy Girl by New Edition, which goes so in brand exactly what Tim just said. Thanks.
I mean, Candy Girl is a great song. I think it was probably the biggest hit that New Edition had.
I would say so.
But for me, of course, my favorite song of theirs is Count Me Out.
I love a lot of New Edition, but I will say I like Can You Stand the Rain? Cool It Now is a good one. Cool It Now. Was My Prerogative just him by himself, or was that with New Edition?
No, that's just Bobby Brown.
I love his version of My Prerogative, but I thought it might have been when he was like on his own.
Yeah, I mean that. No, on Their Own is another Bobby Brown song from Ghostbusters 2.
Well, there we go. I didn't do that on purpose.
I had that on a CD single at one point. In fact.
People are like, wow, riveting.
Well, it was. I loved it at the time.
To be fair, it was really good. I like the song. I don't know. Candy Girl is one that like, I like his little voice too, because he's kind of a little kid in it. So it works really well. Anyway, so back to the CVS playlist. I have a lot of songs on here. Let's see if we got something on here that doesn't make me sound like I'm 90 years old. Really don't. Okay, this one's a good one. It's still going to make me sound old. It's Only the Good Die Young by Billy Joel.
Yeah, there we go. As I'm browsing the shampoo aisle.
I remember last year, all of my music was yacht rock. Tim was like, where did this come from?
I'm thinking, should I get the store brand or should I get Head and Shoulders? And as I'm browsing the price and the label, Billy Joel comes on the public address system with Only the Good Die Young. I mean, what a time to be alive.
Sorry, guys, I can't stop laughing because until Tim pointed it out, I didn't realize how accurate it is. Oh, God. All right. Okay. Breathe, Joy. Everybody's just like, wow, half that episode was Joy just laughing. Well, this one is definitely not going to fit the mold. I do have one on here that I hope Tim knows this song.
Okay.
Pony by Genuine.
I do actually know that song. And the reason I know that is when I was in the previous band I was in, on my Wheels of Steel playlist, which I used to use for DJing breaks, that was a song that was on it.
Well, there you go. I one time may have ended up on a stage after drinking a lot, and this was the song that's playing, and I tried to mentally block it out of my mind and hope that it was never recorded and nobody who ever saw that is near me again.
Well, it depends how long ago that was, because, these days everything is recorded. But I mean, I did all my stupid things before phones and videos and that kind of stuff was invented. It's on
the brink, Tim. It can go either way.
There's a video hit clip out there somewhere where it's like 300 by 200 resolution and you can see a little blob in the background. Oh, there's Joy.
There she is. I mean, to be fair, I fell one time doing the wobble at a club. That really hurt. I fell on ice one time. That's when I broke my tailbone at a club. So I still think about those 2 times, wondering how many people out there saw me. I mean, I wobbled too hard. And I wasn't even drunk or anything at this point. That was at the beginning of the night.
Well, I mean, I know you like to get your injuries in at the beginning, when you can feel them a bit more.
Make sure that I can feel them for the rest of the night.
Exactly.
Oh, Lord. Oh, I do not suggest breaking your tailbone, Tim. That was an interesting thing.
I will. I'll make a note of that. I'll put it on a note in my phone just so I know not to do that.
Yeah, I was walking through and somebody had spilt their ice and one foot went out from another. What you know when you do that like classic fall where one foot just goes straight up and you go straight down.
Hmm.
And this was not early in the night. This is late in the night. And let's just say I didn't feel a thing. Didn't know anything was wrong. Spent the rest of the night dancing, probably the exact opposite of what the doctor would have told me to do.
Hmm.
And I go to my friend's house that I was staying the night with, go to stand up the next morning and realize there's a strong pain stabbing me up my spine.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So I don't suggest that one. Thankfully, it wasn't serious enough that I needed surgery or anything. I just had to sit on one of those donuts for like 6 months.
And it all just sorted itself out.
Yeah, there's like really with your tailbone, that's if unless it's like serious, they don't do much besides just tell you to wait it out.
Gotcha. And like the time in the Fox and Pheasant in West Drayton when I was windmilling like Pete Townsend, and then I hit my hand against a light fixture, and I swear I fractured my hand. It hurt, but it didn't. I'd broken bones, and it wasn't that kind of pain, but it
Yeah.
was very very painful. And then like if I used it to push like a door open, it'd be like, ow.
Something was not doing okay in there, is what you're saying.
Exactly, but eventually it healed. And a friend of mine who was a vet tech said that she said if you come down to the vet place, I'll X-ray it for you. I said,
You're like, so true story. So speaking of that, when Charlie, my husband, so my husband likes motorcycles. He does not have one currently, but he has had multiples throughout his whole life. Um, he hit a deer on one of his motorcycles and broke his leg in 3 places. He has a metal rod now. But when they went to remove, so they never removed the metal rod, which they were supposed to. So at this point, his bone has adhered, whatever. It's like fused with the metal rod, so they can't remove it. But he told me the guy who did the surgery, they called him in. This is when he lived in Oklahoma, told him he would be there in a minute. He was birthing a cow. The guy who did his surgery was a veterinarian. And the guy who never removed the rod like he was supposed to was a veterinarian, kind of a people doctor.
well, I mean, I suppose it's all, for mammals, it's all pretty much the same idea, just different species. But yeah, it's a little disconcerting. It's fair to say.
I mean, it is, but it isn't. I don't know why, but it made me laugh. And he talks about they're like, well, where they were supposed to take the metal rod out. He's like, well, they never did. They're like, well, we can't do it now.
Oh, goodness me.
Anyway, so one day I'm sure that'll be heard again. All right, back to my. I'm really not helping Tim's case with this playlist. All right. This one's not so bad, and this one is one that Tim likes. This is the Spice Girls, and it "Say You'll Be There."
Yes, I mean, I think it would be completely off-brand for you not to have Spice Girls songs in that list. I mean, that is a good Spice Girls song. And I'm surprised it's not like something like Wannabe or Mama or something. But I will say, as we've covered before, in my opinion, the best Spice Girls song is "Who Do You Think You Are?"
Who do you think you are? Say you will be there. But actually, I feel like the song, the one that I'm surprised is not. I'm surprised it's not "Stop Right Now." Thank you. I feel like I hear that song all the time. Stop.
Hmm.
Of course, there's "When Two Become One." That one's a lot on like everything. Mama, I'm not a big fan of. I got burnt out of it, I think.
Okay.
I'm not too big on it. And then, like, of course, their number one hit that everybody knows. It's kind of like Bohemian Rhapsody at this point, as it's one of my favorite bands. I'm kind of like, I could go without hearing that again.
Yeah.
One of these kind of down on the list.
You mentioned Two Become One. Now, are you aware of the band Mr. Big?
Yes.
Okay, they had that song "To Be With You," but I mean,
I'm the one who, what's that one?
yeah, they are mostly a hard rock band. That was like an anomaly, that single, but mostly it's like a Van Halen style, if you will, hard rock band.
Yeah.
The guitarist Paul Gilbert is a fabulous guitar player, and he has a wicked sense of humor. He's a very funny guy, and he does like guitar clinics, and he does like online tuition. You can actually book time with him, and he'll give you guitar lessons and things like that. But I went to a guitar show in the late 90s, I think it was. And he, what normally happens with him, it's sponsored by his guitars he plays for Ibanez, sponsored by Ibanez, and he goes on stage and he talks about, oh, this is the so-and-so model, and this is my signature model, and it's got this pickup and this amp and blah, 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 blah. And then they normally take some questions and then they'll normally play to backing tracks, normally is what they do. And he went through this whole kind of session, and his anecdotes were funny, and he was talking to the crowd and he was showing off his equipment. And then he said, I'm just going to break things up. I'm going to play a song now celebrating three of my favorite three of my favorite British bands of all time. He said this song's going to feature riffs in the style of Led Zeppelin. He said it's going to also feature some guitar playing that's very similar to how Black Sabbath is done. And he said, of course, it is the song by the Spice Girls, Two Become One. And he sang the whole song to a backing track which he'd made. And then he was playing Sabbath and Zeppelin licks all the way through this song whilst doing it. It was fabulous. And people were like, what?
I love it. It probably sounded pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I've got it was the same music show that has the Brian May Clinic in it, and I've got a bootleg of that. But I wonder if the Paul Gilbert one is out there. I should check that out.
Well, there you go, Tim. Now you've got your marching orders. So the next song, that is really cool. I'm going to Google it. We'll get up here. If you find it before, send it to me because I'd be curious to hear it. But the next song is Weezer, and it is Undone.
Okay.
The sweater song.
So that's a Weezer song I'm not as familiar with. I've heard it, but I don't really know it that well. I mean, as you know, for me, my favorite Weezer song is Buddy Holly.
And to be fair, I'm not exactly sure why this is the one that pops up. It's the one that's like, if you want to destroy my sweater. Mm-hmm. That song. I don't know. I don't know why this is the Weezer song that popped up. It's just the one I guess I kept being drawn to. I kind of think I got a little burned. I like Island in the Sun a lot too. Mm-hmm. But it's like, one of their bigly's the word, Joy, largely known songs. So it's kind of like maybe I just got kind of burnt out of it and clicked ahead and ended up on this one.
It could be, or it could be one of those things where the song finishes and then it suggests you something and it plays that one next.
I think you're probably onto something. Weezer's one of those bands that I feel like generally everybody likes. I've never heard anyone say, I don't like Weezer.
No, and the thing is about Weezer, again, they have a sense of humor about them. And I liked it when they covered Toto's Africa, and it had Weird Al in the video, and he was doing a better version of Rivers Cuomo than Rivers Cuomo in real life.
Exactly. I think we talked about, what was that episode we talked about Rivers Cuomo? There was some bizarre fact about him with some weird thing, and Tip talked about this. Charlie maybe listened to that quite a bit because he loves his Weird Al, so I've seen that video a lot. I mean, that's kind of their humor, though. I think that's why everybody likes them. They don't take anything too seriously, and that's the kind of people we like. But anyway, so my next song is, this goes back to Tim's CVS playlist. It's "I Love the Rainy Night" by Eddie Rabbitt.
Yeah, there we are. I can see that. I'm just gone in, got my basket. I'm about to shop. Eddie Rabbitt comes on. Again, great song, super sound of the 70s. Fabulous song. On brand for you, Joy. But yes, it does fit the CVS playlist.
Well, and then if you guys don't remember that one episode where Tim goes, well, boy, we talked about when he passed away, I think a year or two ago. And I said, I was like, oh, Eddie Rabbitt passed away, da 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 da. We want to wish, his family well. And Tim goes, yeah, they used to call his fans the bunnies. And I was like, they did? And he was like, no. I fell for it. Blake, and I'm sure people listening were like, really, Joy? Because Tim just blatantly goes, yeah, they used to call them the bunnies.
Well, it was because there was that time when I went to see Billy Ocean at the Salem Civic Center, and I started writing everywhere online that his fans were called seafarers, and I tried to get that to stick. I don't think it did.
Well, I haven't heard anybody say it, Tim, so I don't know how far it made. Oh, Lord. All right. The next one is the remastered 1993 version of With a Little Luck by Paul McCartney.
Yeah, that is maybe is what they call a sleeper in the Paul McCartney catalog. But a lot of people listening to Band on the Run or Jet or No More Lonely Nights or one of those ones, that one's probably, down there in the list. But again, classic Macca song. I was listening to that the other day. I was on a Paul McCartney kick driving back from somewhere, and I was just telling my car to play things because I can do that now with a Spotify. It's almost as if I have a Night Industries 2000. I can just tell it to do things and it will do it. And that was actually one of the songs that I played.
Well, if you're going to listen to it and there are kids around, you might want to put on the clean version. There's more than one version. With that being said, with a little luck, we can help it out. I love that. I don't know. I like the way the intro is. It always stood out to me. And like Tim said, it's a sleeper song. If you've never heard that song by Paul McCartney and you generally like his music, which I feel like most of the people who listen to our podcast do, or they might be in the wrong podcast, I think you'd like that song.
Absolutely.
That's my recommendation. And that still sticks. If it were the clean version, you might hear it in a CBS. But I don't know. That one might be a little too risque. All right. So to stay in the realm of this exactly seems like joy, we're going to go with It's Gotta Be Hot Stuff by Donna Summer.
A disco classic of the highest order. I mean, this is Giorgio Moroder production. I think he probably wrote this too.
Yep.
It's Donna Summer at her peak. I mean, this is what the 1970s sounded like.
And I've said many times, I love disco. If you don't like disco, then that's a you problem, not a me problem. I support disco. I love music that's supposed to make you, everybody talks about, music's supposed to make you feel all these grandiose emotions, right, Tim? Like it does. It taps into different things. But some music can just make you feel happy. And happiness is an emotion too. And that's cool as well.
Yeah, it seems to me that a lot of people don't take music seriously unless it's like deep and depressing or has some kind of hidden or explained meaning. It's like, no, it's just disco music. It's just good time music.
It is. It's some of it, if you pay attention, there is probably some meaning behind it. But some of it can just be, hey, I just want to have fun, and that's all right too. Because what is the point of listening to music, Tim, if all you're going to do is be depressed the entire time you're listening to it?
Exactly. I mean, sometimes you want that, but you don't
you gotta
always
have
want
you gotta have a break. You gotta have a little bit of both, right? Like you have to have a little bit of both.
Exactly.
And I can only hear Pearl Jam so many times, Gus. I don't know why
Jeremy is a great song. I don't want to hear it every single day of the week.
That one definitely not, Tim. Talk about depressing.
Exactly.
All right. So moving along. Let's see here. That was probably Charlie's, so we're not going to say that one. For anyone who doesn't know, Fast Car by Tracy Chapman, I have a feeling was my husband. I like that song, but I don't think I listened to it as much as he did. What's my next one? Trying to find one that makes me not sound 1,000, but it's not working. So we're just going to move along. Now, this is one that I listen to on repeat 24/7. I'm surprised it's not higher up on the list. I think I probably hear this song once or twice a week, and it is I Hate Myself for Loving You by Joan Jett. Yeah,
that great song. Hey, and of course, you've heard the version by Dolly and Joan Jett.
Yes, and it's fantastic. I love that song. I will say, I can't hear I Love Rock and Roll. I could go the rest of my life without hearing it. I can't say I really want to hear Bad Reputation again. Both of those could. Now, her version of Dirty Deeds, I do love. Crimson and Clover is great. What other one that I'm surprised isn't on my list that I listen to fairly often is Do You Want to Touch Me? And of course, Cherry Bomb comes on occasionally.
Did you know that there's a Joan Jett Barbie?
No, but that's super cool.
So the only reason I know that, I was listening to Dave Grohl's autobiography. He was in Harrods when they was touring in London with his daughters. And he said, oh, you can have anything you want from the toy department, but just one thing, you've got an hour. And they couldn't find anything. So they were just walking out the door and there was a Barbie display. And they chose the whatever Barbie and this other Barbie. And then Dave saw Joan Jett Barbie? What? And he bought it because he just wanted to have it.
I would have to buy that. That's cool.
Yeah.
That would be something I want. And it seems like it'd probably be limited. Like there's probably not that many out there. I don't feel like it was mass production by any stretch.
Yeah, and then he tells a story later about how he started working with Joan Jett on a particular music project, and he came around the house, and then Joan Jett read bedtime stories to his youngest daughter. I mean, of course, and then probably Paul McCartney was involved or something.
Of course, Brian May actually came out of the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly.
It's his whole. I imagine his whole book is like that, isn't it? Like just all these like crazy stories.
As I said to you, that the you could almost call the book McCartney and Me.
Gotcha. I mean, if I were like friends with McCartney, I might pull that card a little bit too, Tim.
Well, sure. But I mean, there was 4 or 5 McCartney stories in this book.
That's kind of it. I mean, how long's the book?
Well, I don't know the real book, but the audiobook is like 10 hours long or 8 hours long or something like that.
I mean, fair. Did you listen to it on the Spotify's?
I did, yes, because you now get 16 hours a month of audiobook listening. I'm currently listening to the David Letterman biography.
So the thing about it is, though, we had a friend, me and Tim last week were on a Zoom with a couple of our friends that are in the UK. And one of them mentioned the only thing that's not their favorite about the books is she gets like halfway through a book and she runs out of her free hours.
Yeah, I mean, the way I listen to it, I probably won't run out of time, or if I do, it won't be a big problem because I'll drive back from a practice, and so I've got 45, 50 minutes worth, and that's when I'll listen to it. Or I might listen to 30 minutes or so a day in the evening just before bed or something like that. But some people like to binge them. You know, they wake up and they put it on from beginning to end, and it probably doesn't work in that scenario.
Yeah, I don't know that I would. I've been listening to, I like to listen to it before I go to bed, and I listen to like certain types of stories before I go to bed. So I don't think it would be a problem for me. I haven't really went down that because I have Audible. I already have Audible, but now I kind of want to cancel my Audible and just go for my 16 hours on Spotify since I'm already paying for Spotify.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. If you're one of these people who really enjoys audiobooks and that's all you listen to, Audible would be a better solution. But like
No.
if you're doing an hour here, half hour there, I think you could probably get away with the free Spotify thing.
I mean, yeah, I might have to do that. All right. So this one is going to surprise you, Tim. And I think the only reason this is on here is because this is an artist that you talked about on the podcast. It is not an artist that generally, I think Americans know very well, or if they do, they may know 1 or 2 songs. It is Samantha Fox.
Okay.
Touch Me.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Samantha Fox was a model. In the UK, we had a newspaper called The Sun, which was famously had a topless lady on page 3, and it was like that for years. Now that they've stopped doing that. Obviously, the times have changed, and they've stopped doing that. But she was one of the famous models in The Sun, and then off the back of that, she had a pop career. And her pop career in the UK was moderate. I mean, she probably wasn't a great vocalist, but it was more her celebrity that drove her music career. And she had Touch Me, and then she did a cover of I Only Want to Be With You. And I think there was a few other songs that she had around that time. But she ended up going to India and was massive. Like Hasselhoff is massive in Germany. Samantha Fox is huge in India. She's appeared in so many Bollywood films. She's had Indian specific music that she's produced. I mean, she is to India what Hasselhoff is to Germany.
And it's really interesting. I don't even really necessarily remember listening to this song that often. I think what it was we talked about it on an episode. I listened to it once and then it got, background music and it just plays periodically. But I thought it was funny that she made it on the list because I don't think I'd ever even heard her name before you said it, Tim. There you go.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it's on your list. I don't know whether they'd play that in CBS though.
I don't think so.
No.
I think that one would be skipped. All right. So this one is one that if you listen to the episode with my twin sister, we talked pretty heavily about this band. And so it's pretty obvious that they would be on the list. This is You're My Number One, S Club 7.
Yeah, because we went into detail about S Club 7 and there's no party like an S Club party and all that kind of stuff. So I
There's
can
a
see
lot.
why S Club would have made that list.
There was a whole thing about a dance that we developed and won a 4-H club event with and all types of things. So I'm surprised it's this song, but I'm also not surprised. All right. So the next one is Freeway of Love, Aretha Franklin.
Yeah,
The single mix.
Yeah, that is a later Aretha Franklin song. That is not in the sort of classic era of Aretha Franklin's early work. I think that's early 80s Aretha Franklin.
Well, wasn't that one not that you would know this, Tim? I'm gonna have to Google it. I feel like it was used in the Goof Troop movie when I was a kid.
Very possibly. But yeah, it would I think it's an early 80s song.
Let's see.
It's around the time she had another hit, Who's Zooming Who? And then
Yeah.
then also she had that duet with George Michael.
I could be wrong, but I think Freeway of Love is used in the Goofy movie. And so that's probably why it stands out to me because I loved that movie as a kid. I mean, it's also Aretha Franklin, so you really can't go wrong.
No, and I will go on record saying she is the only artist that is suitable for a Grammy.
Tim will never not say that. I love this. When I was trying to figure out if she was in the Goofy movie, I was Googling it, Tim. One of the first top question is, did Aretha Franklin sing a song about a pink Cadillac? Because in the video, she's got the pink Cadillac. It's just funny. Apparently, it says, as the imagery occurs in her 1985 comeback song, Freeway of Love, the metaphoric sense is in the Springsteen original, the lyric being, we're going riding on the freeway of love in my pink Cadillac.
There we
So,
go.
there you go, everybody. But yeah, I mean, I love this song. I prefer her version, and it's Aretha Franklin. I don't know what more you could say, Tim.
Absolutely. And you cannot go wrong with Aretha Franklin.
And she deserves every Grammy that's ever existed.
Oh, they should all be for her. I mean, these days, the Grammy goes to DJ, somebody featuring producer, DJ. It's like, no, just give that. I don't care if she's not with us. Just give it to Aretha Franklin. She's the one who deserves that.
That's funny. All right. I know we're getting close to the end, Tim, but I have to say this one because I love this song. This is a band that pretty much defined my childhood. It was one of the first albums I ever owned. It's not AC/DC, everybody. That was one of them, but it's not them. It is Aqua, Dr. Jones. I love the self-titled album from Aqua.
Yeah, I remember
Loved it.
when that came out because I mean, Barbie Girl was the big hit, but yes, I remember Dr. Jones. I do remember that.
Do you remember Lollipop, the Candyman one or whatever? Tim, did you ever hear that one? I am the Candyman coming. I'm a self-proclaimed lover of all the songs nobody knows existed of Aqua, kind of like the Baha Men. I owned a lot of the Baha Men's albums and listened to their songs that were not of Who Let the Dogs Out. They had other songs. And Lou Bega as well. Lou Bega had a whole slew of hits that were not Mambo number 5.
I know, but Mambo number 5 is such a good song, though.
It is. And I still have every lyric inched in my head for the rest of my life. Etched, Joy, etched.
I'm saying I read online. I think it was one of those like fess hole things that's on Twitter and that's now on Threads, where somebody said their ambition was to spend quality time with each person who had a name that's in the number 5. And what's the first name?
I saw. Hold on. Dang it! Now they put it on
Is it a
pause.
little bit of Erica? I think.
A little bit of Erica in my life, a little bit of Sandra
Yeah,
on my
yeah.
side, a little bit of Rita. Yeah.
Yeah.
All I need.
So apparently this guy met an Erica, went on a date, and then ended up getting married to her, and that was the end of that.
He tried.
Yeah.
That's funny. Dang, now that you put me on the spot, my brain went, music, words, things. I told you the most iconic version is still the Disney version where they name all the Disney characters.
Well, I tell you what, Joe, we're almost at the end of this episode. However, so while you was going through your list of your most listened to songs, your Joy's DIY Spotify Wrapped.
Or the CVS playlist.
Yeah. I have found the official CVS Pharmacy playlist. It's for 2022. It's not for 23, it's for 22. I found it. Someone has
God.
compiled it and put it on YouTube. Now, there is 224 songs here. I'm not going to read them all out. But let me just give you some highlights that are probably in the Joy remit.
People are going to think I'm a 77-year-old man.
Okay.
Continue.
We have Starships, Nothing Gonna Stop Us Now. Billy
Yeah.
Joel's River of Dreams.
That's one of my favorites.
The Bangles.
I want that tattoo.
Yeah, Bangles, Walking Down Your Street. Tracy Chapman's Give Me One Reason.
Yeah.
I think this is his. There we are. Fleetwood Mac's Seven Wonders. Sixpence none the rich ones. Sixpence none the
None the
richer.
richer.
Yeah. Kiss Me. Amy Grant's on here. Steve Winwood's Roll With It.
Let me guess. Amy Grant's Baby or whatever that one song was. Yeah.
Yeah. Peter Gabriel's In Your Eyes. I mean. Let me scroll down. Just scroll down a little bit more. What do we have?
It sound a lot like If You Follow Me on Spotify.
Yeah. Belinda Carlisle's I Get Weak. The Police, everything she does is magic. Santana's Smooth.
And they're
Elton
not
John's I'm Still Standing. I mean, I think you should program the music for Radio CBS.
Oh, Lord. I think you're right. I feel like, and what's funny is you named these artists, but they didn't even pick like their most famous songs. It's kind of like the middle ground songs like my playlist was. Do you know what I mean, Tim?
Exactly.
It's not quite Journey. You know what I mean? Don't Stop Believing. It's more like the underbelly songs.
Yeah, for example, like they don't have Phil Collins In the Air Tonight. They're on their list. They have Phil Collins's Two Hearts.
That's basically who I'm giving preeminence to.
Oh, look at this. George Michael and Aretha Franklin. I knew you were waiting for me.
Of course. I'm never going to live this down. All right. Well, with that, Tim, and the fact that your podcast host is actually the curator of all CBS playlists, is there anything you'd like to tell the people?
Just be incredibly kind to everyone you meet.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.